talked about heroes defined by guilt, like Peter Parker, and heroes defined by trauma, like Tony Stark. But what about a hero defined by pure, unyielding belief? That's Steve Rogers. He's the physical embodiment of an idea so powerful it literally shattered his life and froze it in time. Today we're diving into the question, can one man, plucked from the past, still be the moral compass for a broken future? Welcome back to Marvel Echoes Resonance. I'm your host, Will, and if you're joining us for the first time, our mission is simple. We dig into the origins of Marvel's greatest heroes and villains and find the echoes, these pivotal moments that define their legacy forever. And today we're tackling the big one, the one whose symbol is literally draped across him, the Sentinel of Liberty, Captain America. Now, when you first look at Cap, especially if you're a newcomer, you might see the red, white, and blue and think, oh, okay, he's the patriotic guy. He's the muscle for the American way. But that is a surface level read and misses the entire point of his 80-year history. Captain America isn't loyal to a flag, a president, or a political party. He is loyal to the ideal. He is loyal to the promise of what America should be. And his story is the tragic and glorious record of his perpetual disappointment that the reality rarely lives up to the dream. To truly understand the Captain, first, you have to forget the serum for a minute. Before he was a peak human perfection, he was Steve Rogers, a scrawny kid from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. He was an artist, which is something a lot of people forget. He was slight, often ill, and literally physically unfit to serve in the military during World War II. But that frailty was wrapped around an utterly unshakable core of courage. Steve's primary motivation was simple. He couldn't stand bullies. It didn't matter if the bully was a neighborhood thug giving his friend Bucky a hard time, or if the bully was a genocidal dictator overseas. Steve Rogers would always step up. In fact, he was willing to throw his pathetic little body into the face of certain injury or death just for the principle of standing against a wrong. You see, this theme is reflected in the characters like that, like Peter Parker. Both are driven by deep guilt or profound principle. Peter was motivated by a choice of inaction that cost a life, while Steve was motivated by a choice of action, repeatedly trying to enlist, that ultimately earned him a new life. This brings us to the origin spark. In Captain America Comics issue number 1, published way back in '41, creators Joe Simon and Jack Kirby didn't wait for the US to enter the war. They dropped Cap directly into the political fight, famously showing him punching Adolf Hitler on the cover. This wasn't just entertainment. It was a political statement. Because of his pure heart, Steve Rogers was selected for Project Rebirth, the American effort to create the perfect soldier using the super soldier serum developed by a Dr. Abraham Erskine. We all know that happens next. Steve is injected, bombarded with Vita rays, emerges as the perfect human specimen. He is faster, stronger, smarter, and more resilient than any non-powered person on Earth. But this moment is immediately laced with tragedy. A Nazi spy hidden in the laboratory murders the doctor. The secret formula for the super soldier serum dies with its creator. And here is the first, deepest echo in Cap's history. Uniqueness born from sacrifice. He is the only one. The world gets a superhero, but it loses the chance to create an army of them. Steve Rogers is instantly frozen as a singular, irreplaceable event. Now we fast forward to 1964, when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby resurrected Captain America in Avengers issue number 4. This is arguably his second equally important origin. The Avengers pull the block of ice from the sea, thaw him out, and he's a dusty man from World War II, still in his uniform, and suddenly Steve Rogers is awake in the 1960s. He's completely, totally, and utterly lost. Imagine being yanked from the final moments of a war you were desperate to win and dumped into a world of flying suits of armor, gods from Norse mythology, and a gamma-powered rage monster. If Tony Stark is a futurist constantly worried about what tomorrow brings, Captain America is a man whose heart is still tethered to yesterday. So think of like G.I. Joe, Duke, straight out of the 1980s cartoon, suddenly waking up, finding himself on the deck of Voyager, right? It doesn't work. Nothing makes sense. The technology is alien, the moral questions are blurry, the war he fought is just a dusty chapter in a textbook. This man out of time conflict is his psychological motivation for the next 6 decades. He seeks the clarity and principles of 1945 and the confusing compromise of the modern world. That conflict is his superpower. So we've covered the history, the origin, the core psychological engine that drives Steve Rogers. He's the moral center of the Marvel Universe, but the Marvel Universe loves to test its moral centers. What happened after Cap thawed out and joined the Avengers? Well, plenty. But for new readers who want to catch up, here's some essential echoes that help you get caught up with modern Cap. The first huge change came in the mid-2000s with the iconic Winter Soldier arc by Ed Brubaker. As you mentioned, Bucky's death was untouchable. Brubaker taught that untouchable loss and turned into the biggest twist in Marvel history. The reveal that Bucky hadn't died, but was instead brainwashed by the Soviets and turned into a super assassin, the Winter Soldier. Wasn't just good plot twist, it was devastatingly emotional for Steve. This was not the return of a villain like the Red Skull. This was a return of his brother, corrupted and weaponized. The echo here is all about redemption. Steve wasn't fighting for a cosmic cube or a piece of land. He was fighting to rescue a soul. His conviction that his friend could be saved, that the good person beneath the assassin could be reached, is the purest expression of his heroism. It's a bit like seeing the good in Darth Vader, right? The payoff is there. It's immediate. It's personal. This story forever changed Steve's future heroism to his tragic past. Next, we have to jump forward a little to Civil War from 2006. This is where Steve Rogers truly cemented his role as the Sentinel of Dissent. In the aftermath of a massive tragedy, the government demands that all superpowered individuals register and work directly for S.H.I.E.L.D. or the government. Tony Stark supports this, believing that accountability and security require control, a clear echo of his own trauma, as we talked about in the last episode. But Captain America, the man who literally wears the flag, says no. His stand is not anti-American. It's profoundly American. He believes that forcing people to reveal their identities and forfeit their freedoms is a step down a slippery slope towards tyranny. He says, "I'm loyal to the American dream, not the American government." And if you remember what we talked about with John Walker, he did the same thing when he stepped down as Captain America. He leads the Secret Avengers, which is an anti-registration side against Tony Stark's forces. This conflict proved that Steve Rogers is willing to break laws, fight friends, and become a wanted criminal to defend the principles of liberty and personal freedom. It's an echo of his willingness to fight the powerful, no matter how beloved the source, if that power threatens the basic rights of others. Finally, for a more recent perspective, we can look briefly at Secret Empire from 2017. This arc provided the ultimate thought experiment. What if Steve Rogers had been a Hydra agent all along? Due to the reality warping from the cosmic cube brought to life, named Kobik, Steve's history was rewritten and he became the head of Hydra, taking over the United States. It's a controversial story, but the narrative echo is profound. It showed the world that even if a man wearing the costume is corrupted, the symbol itself holds moral weight. The other heroes, the people of the nation, and even the corrupted Steve himself had to contend with the power of Captain America's identity. It was a dark mirror showing that the ideal Steve Rogers fought for was bigger than the man beneath the mask. So where is Steve Rogers today? Well, after the reality warping was undone, Steve returned. He didn't just retire. He cemented his role as the elder statesman and mentor of the Marvel Universe. In the current From the Ashes era, following the collapse of the X-Men's mutant nation Krakoa, Steve Rogers is one of the few heroes who retains global moral authority. He's back to leading the Avengers and co-leading the Unity Squad, formerly known as Uncanny Avengers. He remains a central figure in major events, often serving as the strategic voice of reason where others are panicking. As a father myself, I see the perfect echo here. He isn't trying to rule, he's trying to guide. He's teaching a new generation of heroes, like Miles Morales and Sam Wilson, not how to fight, but why to fight. Looking ahead in 2026, Steve is still carrying the shield, prominently featured on the new Captain America Volume 10 ongoing series. His current missions are focused less on intergalactic threats and more on deeply rooted terrestrial threats to American democracy and liberty, bringing his story back to its core foundation, fighting the bully on the block, no matter how high up the chain of command that bully sits. He is the standard by which all other heroes measure their moral footing, and for the foreseeable future, that isn't going to change. We've seen how Steve Rogers' convictions have clashed with the reality of his whole life. He's been a fugitive, a conspirator, and an icon. So I'll leave you with this question. Do you think Captain America is more important as a man of action or as a timeless ideal that constantly challenges the state of the world? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you don't miss a single episode. Leaving a like and a comment really helps the channel grow, and I appreciate every single one of them. If you have other suggestions, leave a comment below. Let me know who you would like to see next. For more content, like new reader guides, make sure you visit our website in the links below. Till next time, true believers, make mine Marvel.